realized, just potential, all potential, there would probably be a concept of I am. I'm everything. I'm all. All is me. So what we have here is a plus sign. In mathematics, you can also think of it as a singularity. There's only one, singularity. So there's nothing realized, all potential. You might think of infinity at this point as being the outer edge of all possibilities. And all possibilities would be inside of that. We haven't arrived at time yet in this whole scenario. However, we're going to have to take artistic license and say at some point in this infinity of being, or partial infinity of being, God gets a new idea. And this new idea is, I wonder what, because right now he's thinking, I am, I'm all. Well, a new idea might be, I wonder what it would be to not be all. Or what is the concept of not being? Or in mathematics, we'd be saying this would be a minus. So you have a plus, and you now have a minus. So what you have is a duality, whereas you had a singularity before. So the big question is, where have we heard of this before? Well, you take these two concepts and you can go, well, it's a plus and a minus. It could be a 0 and a 1. 1 is, 0 is not, is. And we have something that is familiar to some of us, and all of you are familiar with it in some way because it's in your computer. Your desktop computer, your laptop computer. If you go into the guts of it, you'll find nothing but ones and zeros. Now, if you take 3 of these items together, you can build codes for all sorts of things. So let's take 0, 0, 1, and let's call that the integer 1. Let's take 0, 1, 0, and we have the integer 2, and so on up the decimal scale. Well, you can combine these combinations of ones and zeros in all sorts of ways, and you can get letters. You can code A, B, C, and out of that you can get words, and then out of that you can put more together, words together, and you get sentences. Sentences give you concepts, concepts give you all of literature, all of thinking, talking stuff. And if you go on the mathematical side, you have the binary system, which is what I described, the ones and zeros, making you know, the 0, 0, 1s, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, and on up. And you have you know, sexy names like octal. It's a combination of a whole bunch of ones and zeros in combinations, and that gives you kind of a mathematics that you can think with. And decimal, of course, we all know. And I mean, there's Boolean, and there's all sorts of other kinds of mathematical systems that can do different kinds of things. But they all reduce down to science in some way. And out of science, which can be described by this mathematical, all of these different mathematics, you can get all sorts of things. Like, for example, let's see what we have here on the screen, on the big silver screen. There.
This is 0.
There it is. Here it comes. Wait. It'll happen. Not yet. Pause for refreshment here. There it is. We already saw the me thing, and we already saw the plus, you know, is, and then we saw the duality. Now the interesting thing here is the duality of a computer. Now see the computer, let's get to this one over here. Go forward. Yeah. Now in the computer you have nothing but the ones and zeros. And out of that you can get cell phones, you can get rocket ships, you can get cars. Inside your car is a whole bunch of different kinds of computer chips, all ones and zeros. You can get robots that can leap over tall buildings in a single bound. Okay, so now we have all manner of things, but we still have I. We still have unity. We have God and all of his toys at this point, or the computer, because you see, I see the computer and God's new condition of is and is not as being fractals of each other. So everything that we can see that a computer can do, we can imagine that that's how, this population of all things happen. But you see, up until this point, we don't have another point of view. We only have one point of view at this point. So how do we get to another point of view? So we go to the next one, which is this one right here, the chess game. I'm a chess player. When you try to play chess by yourself, you make a move, and then you run around to the other side of the table and you make another move. Now, if you neglected to forget what you were thinking when you've made your first move, you know what the other guy, yourself, over there, is going to do. So it kind of can be very boring. So to make the game more fun, you need to give yourself amnesia between moves. Welcome, ego. Okay. So if here's the thing. If we're really reflections of God, if each of us is a reflection of God, we can't even know what the other guy is thinking anymore most of the time. So how can this be if we're really reflections of God? We're all very similar. Well, if you took a spaghetti colander, like I have here, and you project the light through there, see? Now you can all see that? Now if it were a smoky room, you would see columns of light. There would be columns of light. And each of those columns of light would be separated by not light, no light. Well, you can see that there's a barrier here between the light. You can almost think of this as these are filters. Here's a filter. So you have light and then surrounded by not light, darkness. And that darkness, which surrounds each of us, see, we are this reflection of all, but we're surrounded by absence of it. And it's a magnet. It pulls in a pseudo-light, perhaps. Beliefs which are not true or true. They're not necessarily true, they're not necessarily false, but they're some substitute for pure light, which is, there's no doubt about it. Your inner core, you have certainty, you are the reflection, you see. So the question is, how do we get this? See, this band or this stuff that's surrounding us, these beliefs, are possibly foisted off on us, or we've attracted them somehow. In all the time that we've existed, from the point that we were the light and then we now are separate from the all. See, because this light here is the same as this light, no matter which one it is. But we had a time frame where we've been separated from the source, and in that time frame, we had plenty of time to start accumulating these beliefs that surround us, that we think are true, but we're not sure. Can happen from duress, can happen from training, it can happen from your social stuff, picking up these things all over the place. Okay, so the column of light that we are sees through this wall of accumulation of beliefs. And we also see ourselves through that. We're projecting out and looking in. So we identify ourselves as, whatever our baggage is, and we look out and we see the others through this baggage. Some of it could be true or not. I see it as flavors of God. So you're vanilla, you're strawberry, you're chocolate, nuts, and so on. Not you. That guy over there. But you see, it's sort of like that colors us. That's our flavor. And some of it helps us and some of it doesn't help us. But that's the way I see why we are so different from each other. We're wearing these filters. We're wearing all of these filters, and we're modified by those filters. My idea of test of a good idea, what is a good idea? If it can do something. So with this development of idea, we can do three things. We can heal, we can get stuff, and we can know the truth. We can cut through the BS with this. So I'm going to show you how that happens, or could happen. This is all subjective, this is all hypothetical. Beliefs are true or not. It's not an inspected datum, something that we acquired somehow, and we think it's okay. It sounds good, but it's not something that we know. It's not. We don't have certainty on it. One can get very confused. Being the source, the light source, your little lights that's shining, and having these beliefs that are also mixed in with this, it can confuse us. So the big question is, how do we differentiate? How do we know the difference between the beliefs and what's real, what's true? So that's what we're going to talk about and see if we can figure that out. If you feel good, here's a solution. If it feels right, it's probably your light, and if it doesn't feel right, it's probably the not necessarily true. Your indicators, your heart, what your heart tells you. You vibrate inside. You just feel right. That somebody else says something to you, and it goes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it feels right. I can't see exactly, but it just seems right. Or you read something, same thing. So there is a way that we can differentiate, and I think it has to do with the way you feel inside. A lot of people have said that, but I think that's the way it works. A vector in science is anything that's going in a direction that has force of some nature. something going in a direction. An idea with force, whatever. You can think of a belief as a vector. It's a bunch of words, and it has force, like the belief that I can't play, that people will throw tomatoes at me if I get up in front of an audience and play, is a belief that I might have had at one time. However, it has the force in it to prevent me from getting up on the stage and performing. That's what I'm talking about. It has force inside it. So these beliefs guide us sometimes away from what we want to do or what we should be doing. A powerful vector will align other vectors. So you have this, the one with the magnet, right here. So you have a vector here that's strong. There's something blocking that vector. There are other vectors that are going in all different directions. And if the vector is strong enough, what it'll do is it will align all of these other vectors. I think you mentioned it a long time ago when I mentioned it to you. You said it was some scientific term, resonation, or what was it?
Coherence.
Coherence. So it's actually something that people have studied, but that's what happens. So illness, disease, mental stuff is in some way a confusion along the vector. A graphic example is in the bloodstream, for example. Here's a good one. Okay, so you have plaque in your vein, and the plaque is, in a sense, vectors going in different directions. It's not flowing along with the blood. So what you do is you take some medicine, or eventually something strong enough goes through there, and it aligns everything, and it flushes it out. So now you have a flow along the vein or artery. That's sort of what I'm talking about. And you have an idea that something is stopping you, and there's confusion about something, and it's just blocking you. And you somehow get a strong vector in there, maybe your own inner light, whatever, and it aligns everything, and you kind of clean that out. Everything's flowing in the same direction. Well, so I think any illness, any kind of disease of any kind is really a blockage or confusion of vectors. And I think the solution is to align everything and get it flowing. And that, I think, is what healing is about. I think medicine of all kinds at the molecular level does this in some way. So the question is, how do you get stuff? Everybody's heard seen the movie or read the book, The Secret, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The Secret anymore.
Some people haven't. Okay, well, there are a lot of philosophies that talk about this kind of thing, about how you can get stuff, how to send out your mental waves and you'll pull in stuff. So I'm curious about how it works. So I think that how it works is that the thought that you put out is a vector. It's an idea and it has force in it. I want a blah blah. And it drives you, it has so much force that it gets you to get up early in the morning and go to work and make money and go and then save some of it and put it in the bank, and then all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of it, and now you can get the I want the thing that I want. I want the new car, I want the new whatever. So the idea has force in it. Now, there's an interesting thing that happens is called manifestation. And everybody has manifested at some point or other. And when that happened, what occurred was they actually thought of something they wanted. or they wanted to do or whatever, and they didn't think about it much, and the universe just kind of worked it out. And all of a sudden, they got it right there in front of them, right? So that's a phenomena. So the way I see it is like these magnets. Let's go to the bowl. The one I see it sort of like a bowl of water with corks. And in the cork is a needle that's magnetized. And these corks just are floating. There's no resistance in the water. And there might be debris in the water, and these things just gradually drift towards each other because they're in the field. What they want, and it kind of comes together. So the intention is a powerful vector. It goes out into the universe, and its matching thing starts drifting towards it, and sometimes it takes a long time, but eventually it does. However, there's one proviso, and that is that if your intention is confused, you're not going to get what you want. So you have a counter intention, and that counter intention, you're so powerful that whatever you want, whatever you decide is going to happen. But you see, whatever you decide isn't going to happen is also not going to happen. So you got a stalemate, Mexican standoff. It doesn't happen. So that's a problem. So let's go a little further than that, and think of an example of this in science, in biology, for example. I think there's a slide there. Is that one? The cell reproduction. You have a cell that has a double strand of DNA. So you have a double strand of DNA. And it's surrounded by this wall, a barrier. And inside that barrier is all the possibilities that are on that DNA strand. And what happens is, in the reproductive cycle, is the DNA strands separate and they become one and one, floating free, and then the wall of the cell pinches in the middle and then breaks away. And now you have a single strand of DNA surrounded by a universe, its own little universe of all possibility that's on that DNA strand. And in the same way, you have this magnetic pull. Let's say you have A, B, and C as elements along that DNA, genes or parts of genes or parts of the part of gene. At the smallest quantum level, whatever that is, you've got the matching element in the soup. And it pulls to it, and before you know it, you have all of the A's have pulled an A to it, the B's have pulled a B to it, and before you know it, you have a double strand of DNA surrounded by a sea of all possibility. And then it starts separating, and you go through the same cycle of reproduction. That's how they work. So there's a graphic example of how it works. So if we think of the universe as being the outer wall of all possibility, and you put an idea out that is a possibility, is one of the possibilities, well, these things will come together eventually. And that's the mechanics, I think, of how manifestation occurs. And you have to just be careful about the fact that the counter thought will also manifest. So we wonder why we're not manifesting, and we go, oh, manifesting, it doesn't work. I read this book and it doesn't work. I've read, it's not working. Well, perhaps it's the beliefs that you have that are saying, oh, it can't be true. It won't work. I can't do it. So, as an artist, so that's the manifestation. So then the next question is, how do you cut through the BS? So, as an artist, I learned something a long time ago, and that is that I'm God of my universe. When I create something, my truth, whatever I do, comes from here. It's my truth. It can't be judged. You can't compare it because it's me. I'm so unique. I'm different than anybody else. My filters are all different than your filters. And I realized that that's the mechanism of how you find truth, because I find truth in my own work. I look at my own paintings, or I look at my own art, listen to my own music. When I'm really being there, you know, sometimes I'm not totally there, but when I'm really there, cranking, there's a truth that's happening. I'm pushing out my own truth. You can't judge it. So let's take this further. So another person's talking to you, and that person is speaking from their truth. And what happens is, inside you, there's like a tuning fork. I think we have a picture of one somewhere there. I don't see it. It's like a tuning fork. When you put your truth out, when you contact your own column of light, when you are your column of light, presenting or being in that, you're vibrating. You're vibrating at a very, very powerful intensity. And that goes out. Now, the other person that's listening, even though that person may have lots and lots of beliefs and lots of filters that they're listening to what you're saying through, the fact that you're vibrating at this high level, it's such a strong vector that it links up with this vector of their own that's underneath all of their own baggage, and it starts ringing. You're ringing a bell over here and I'm ringing a bell over here. And what happens is, in the same way we talked about healing and all of that, is that the two vectors, which are the two lights, which are similar, see, because this source and those little lights are all the same light, but the difference is that those lights are colored and filtered with all of this other stuff. But if you are communicating from your light, you're going to ring the other guy's bell. And oftentimes what will happen is your vector and their vector will be so powerful that it will align the vectors that are in the middle. So we get to a point where we can look at another person and recognize that they are a light. They're doing the best they can. Just like I'm doing the best I can with my filters. I know that I'm doing the best I can. I know that. And I'm pretty sure that everybody else is. Because they're the same, coming from the same source. So how can I make a judgment about them? Can't judge. So all I can do is observe and appreciate what they offer. and recognize that they're doing